true vision is limitless.
Vision is an essential part of any success story. I think that very few people stumble into success. The majority of people, if not all, I would say, are intentional about getting somewhere.
Neil Nelson is very intentional, the driven CEO and founder of Desta, a video-on-demand streaming company. He is also head of the Diaspora Media Group, a $100 million company. Under its umbrella, Atlanta Black Star, a Black-owned and operated digital news platform. Also under his media empire, the Shadow League, a leading platform specializing in sports and culture. And he owns Fenora, in partnership with Bloomberg Media. Fenora.com is a website on financial news impacting us.
Wow, it sounds like you're trying to change the world.
That's the goal.
The Empire of Neil Nelson, right now on Blackland.
And now,
as a brown person, you just feel so invisible.
That's not fiction. Where we're from.
Brothers and sisters, I welcome you to this joyful day.
We celebrate freedom. Where we are.
Oh, get on the ground!
I know someone heard something.
And where we're going.
We the people means all the people.
The Black Information Network presents Blackland with your host, Vanessa Tyler.
I always wanted to be in the movies.
And we are definitely in these movies. Titles you probably never heard of. Good movies like this one, The Brown Paper Bag, a period piece in old Hollywood, circa 1942, about a young black man and others trying to make it in showbiz.
It wasn't long before I found myself on Central Ave. No one cared about them in Hollywood, where they was just a butt of jokes. But down on Central Ave, they were treated like stars.
Or this movie titled The Bargain.
Graduated top of class in law school. Come on. Why would you sign something without seeking proper counsel?
How about The Invite, another movie from the catalog of so many to choose from on Desta.com, the black-owned streaming service.
Nisha Calhoun is addicted to married men. That's all she messes with.
This one titled Broken Ceiling, about a black woman who gets passed over yet again in corporate America.
After 10 years of being the silent assistant, it's finally time for my voice to be heard.
Black movies starring us. Tune into Desta, a new free video-on-demand streaming service. But there is so much more going on here than movies. To dig deep into the motivation behind Desta is the CEO, Neil Nelson, the mastermind of a $100 million media empire. Neil, welcome to Blackland.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
TV sure is changing, and to see anything good, you need a streaming service, more than one, actually, like Netflix, Apple Prime, and more. It starts to add up, but Desta is free. Talk about that.
Yes, well, we think that people are pretty inundated with expenses, especially for streaming platforms, and people are looking for ways to still enjoy movies that they love without shelling out an additional $10 or $15 or $20. And so we, similar to others, we see an opening in the marketplace, and we're looking to exploit that.
I know you know the power of media, but the real power is owning it. Talk about owning the media.
Yeah, I think that, media ownership is essential to any people or community in the world. But it's especially meaningful, I think, to our community as Black folks in this country and really around the world, because a part of our story in this country, a long part of that story, is the denial of control over our narratives, the denial of control over telling our stories, shaping our realities, and determining who we are. And so media ownership has been one of the hallmarks of struggle and movement to uplift our community over the last century and a half. And so we see ourselves, not just Desta, but our parent company, DDM Group, as being a part of that legacy and continuing that work to honor our ancestors, but also for our posterity, because the future has to be shaped in a way that benefits not just those who have historically benefited, but also our community in a much more effective way.
Elon Musk comes to mind, how he owns a platform and he can just kick anybody off and cut off that voice, cut off that perspective. In the news lately, TikTok, again, ownership. Chinese ownership is a concern for the U.S. government. And when you think about our voices on those platforms, we're at the mercy of those people.
That's indeed the case. And I think that one of the struggles that, we just saw on X, that Don Lemon show got canceled or he's quitting. I'm not sure what the exact details of that are, but they're no longer together, Elon Musk and Don Lemon on X. And I think that what it tells us is that if ever there was a need for us to own our own platforms, it is now.
Case in point. After a tough interview, billionaire Elon Musk, owner of X, and journalist Don Lemon parted ways for a new show. Since it seems all humanity is on X, makes for a lot of voices one man can silence. Here, Don Lemon takes to social media.
Apparently, free speech absolutism doesn't apply when it comes to questions about him from people like me.
And that is what propels Neil Nelson. When you own your own. Sure, Mega Media is a bigger platform, but it is also one on a whim that can be snatched away.
I know that many folks in our community have made a lot of money on being content creators on other platforms, from social platforms to others like Tubi, and they should continue to do that. But I think we should also never see the need to replace our own sense of ownership and the sense of power that comes from that, because otherwise you're always at the behest of other people, that they can simply dismiss you to the extent that they tolerate you in the first place and allow you to generate income and have a voice in those places. The person who moderates those platforms, who own those platforms, can always get rid of you if you don't own that platform. And so while we want to encourage folks to continue to build and have a voice in other places, let's not forget those places and spaces that we own and control and can moderate on our own, to our own interests.
Who decides the content and where do you get it?
So we have a team internally that handles content. It's headed by a wonderful woman, Julie French. She heads up that part of the Desta team. And we partner with independent film distributors across the country and really across North America, so also in Canada. And these are filmmakers that don't go the typical route through Hollywood. They actually go directly to SVODs and TVODs and AVODs like us.
He says there are so many different ways we're getting media now.
And so SVOD is a subscription-based platform like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. Those are considered to be your SVODs, meaning that you pay a monthly subscription fee to get and see their content. And then there's also what's called TVOD, which is a transaction-based. And so you pay per view. You pay for a particular title each time you go and make a transaction. And then there's what's called AVOD, which is like Desta, Tubi, those kinds of platforms. You don't pay, but you get to watch them for free because they're ad supported.
We are speaking with Neil Nelson, CEO and founder of the Diaspora Media Group, under which is Desta, the free Black-owned streaming service with quality Black movies.
Indeed. Thank you. So, Atlanta Black Star, it was our first property that we launched back in 2012. So it's been about 12 years now since we've been, in this industry. And again, we got in it because we wanted to make an impact. And so, we've been through the ups and downs of the industry, and, we've been here when it wasn't popular to be here, when it wasn't advantageous to be here monetarily, but we have a purpose. We're a purpose-driven organization. And so we use our platforms to nudge our community in a particular direction. And when we think about our community's interest, we think about it from the perspective of what we call the three gaps. We think that there are three gaps that separate our community from other communities as it relates to accomplishments and well-being. And one of them is knowledge gap. That's the first one. The second one is capabilities gap. And the third one is wealth gap. And so we use our platform to help close those gaps for our community so that our people, our community can be more effective when they attend the world.
Wow, it sounds like you're trying to change the world.
That's the goal.
This is obviously bigger than money, your vision, what you're saying, but it takes money. How did you do it? I mean, we all have ideas, we all have dreams, but how did you physically do it? I mean, let's say you had one red cent and now
Right.
a multi-million-dollar company.
Yes.
How did you do it?
You know, it really began with my father. You know, he came to this country as an immigrant in the 1970s and as a farm worker, actually. And, you know, he worked several blue collar jobs and saved up his money and eventually bought a house. And he eventually allowed me to control that house as a property, as a real estate property. And, you know, we sold it and bought other real estate property. But some portion of those monies we invested in launching this company 12 years ago. And because of that sense of responsibility to him and his work and his sacrifices, I've always felt like it wasn't my money to spend. And so whatever surplus we made on an annual basis, we reinvested it in the company and we saved it because we want to make sure that we accomplished the goal and the mission that he blessed. When I was 3 years out of college and I said to my dad, Dad, I want to quit my job because I don't think that what I'm doing, I can really help our people and be impactful the way I wanted to. And he gave me his blessings to, you know, to quit my job at 25 and that he would support me with this investment. And so that's been how we kind of physically got the resources to invest, but also that commitment to his sacrifice and his legacy drives and motivates me and the team to be very resourceful, to not overindulge in surplus, but to put it aside for future, you know, rainy days when there isn't as much. And that's been the kind of the financial or the fiscal policy that we've taken that has allowed us to build up these resources and to do it without any debt because of that initial investment.
This is mind-blowing. So you basically just take any profits, you reinvest, and you keep moving forward. And I guess, you know, the whole thing with compounding, you know, it just grows, but it takes vision. And I've seen some interviews that you've given, and you talk a lot about vision,
Yes.
visualizing. So that's truly, of course, you know, of course, with blessings from above, that
Indeed.
truly is what propels you and how got you to where you are now.
Yeah, I think that, you know, vision is an essential part of any success story. I think that very few people stumble into success. The majority of people, if not all, I would say, are intentional about getting somewhere. And they may not get all the way there, meaning that they may never fully realize their vision. But if the vision is big enough, wherever they get on that journey beyond where they are is really a success. And so for us, our vision, to your point earlier, is really to have an impact in the world, to make the world more friendly and more positive in the way it receives folks from our community, and to make sure that we don't cause it to be more negative towards other people. So we have no intention of harming others, but at the same point, we're very intentional and focused on it being receptive to our people's interests and goals, both collectively and personally. So that vision does empower us. But the faith in that vision, you know, comes from our experience, you know, growing up in very poor community in Western New England, and having blue collar parents that are hardworking and committed, you know, working 2 jobs, each of them, both of my parents, to make sure that we were able to have, you know, a roof over our head and, you know, a warm place to sleep at night. And so that kind of blue collar work ethic with good education, I think, is often behind these kind of success stories that we're talking about. And, you know, and I think that, you know, my father he passed away 10 years ago this year. And I know that he's looking down on what I have done. And he's probably really happy that his sacrifice produced much of this success.
Yeah, your dad is definitely proud of you. I also hear you speaking a lot about Marcus Garvey. He was a hero to you. Why?
Marcus Garvey was a hero because I think that, as Dr. Martin Luther King said when he visited Marcus Garvey's memorial site in Jamaica in the 1960s, early 60s, he said that Marcus Garvey was the first Black man to reconstitute and give the Negro of the world a healthy sense of himself again.
The world is indebted to us for the benefits of civilization. They stole our arts and sciences from Africa. Then why should we be ashamed of ourselves?
After 5 centuries of systematic dehumanization and mental brainwashing that had us see ourselves as not being deserving of our own best interests, of not being deserving of pursuing our own goals, of having a healthy view of who we were and our contribution to the world. Marcus Garvey restored that. Marcus Garvey gave us, again, a sense of self-respect, dignity in the world, that our interest was worthy of commitment, of sacrifice, of being pursued without apology to anyone else in the world. And so, looking at him as an example is also why we named our first publication The Black Star, because of Marcus Garvey's Black Star line.
Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own to make ourselves free men.
With all the DEI setbacks and the elimination of certain aspects of our history in schools, what you're doing now is more important, frankly, than ever, because we have to set our narrative. And even with artificial intelligence, we have to make sure that this information is put in by us, because if not, the way things work, it gets repeated and repeated and repeated. We can literally, and people don't realize, wipe out our history and wipe out our truth.
Absolutely. That's such a great point that you're making, because, one of the things that Dr. Genevieve Clark, one of the foremost historians and scholars in this country, said was that a part of the crime against the Negro is the crime of writing him out of his role in history, trying to remove him from the respectable commentary of history, that he didn't belong there. He had played no significant role. I'm an avid reader. I read probably, what, a book or so, maybe 2 books a week. And I love to read history books and ancient culture societies. And it's very rare that you find that the scholars who are writing these books, that they talk about Black culture and history in these literature. And so, because of the fact that AI is going to use these books and these articles and these other mediums to base its responses to any kind of prompts that is given to it, oftentimes our narrative will be left out of those stories in those responses, and it will become a negative loop where it will constantly generate responses based on responses that will then remove us potentially permanently from the historical record. And that's why it's so important that we create, to your point, these kinds of platforms that generate these stories. One of the most repeated and popular articles on the Atlanta Black Star is an article that was written back in 2013 about 7 medieval African kingdoms. And every so often, that story picks back up over the last 11 years or so. And so it gives me hope that this is the kind of content that we have created and published and sustained that is still popular. And those kind of content, here's the rub. That kind of content is not well monetized by Google and other advertising platforms. In fact, we get emails from Google telling us to either delete certain content like that, or they will not monetize them. And so
Stop for
there's
just 1 second.
Yes.
Could you repeat that? Google sent you letters to remove material. Are they saying it's not true? Remove it.
Well,
Why?
their system flags certain content as being what they call inappropriate. And so if you read an article about, let's say, lynchings that happened in the South, to people of African descent in America, their process might see that content as being harmful to someone. You're talking about lynching. And so they demonetize that content. And so even though it's not really harmful, it's just the history of this country, they demonetize it. And they also say that you can't use our monetization platform, i.e. AdSense, to monetize that content. And so we've gotten several emails through our third-party vendors from Google that says this particular article either has to remove our technology from it, monetizing it, or be deleted. And so there are other forces, intentional or unintentional, that are at work that are attempting to erase the reality and the fact of our history as a people now and in the past. And we have to be vigilant in protecting our narrative against these kinds of aggressive tactics, whether they're intentional or unintentional, whether that's a human being that's doing that or a algorithm that's doing that. We still have to be vigilant in protecting ourselves.
The article, Nelson says, Google flagged, is titled The 7 Medieval African Kingdoms Everyone Should Know About. Read it on AtlantaBlackStar.com.
What's coming up next on Desta? What can we expect next? What's happening?
So we're in the process currently of planning our first AVOD Film Festival, which will happen in June during Black Music Month and during Juneteenth. That week, we're going to encourage filmmakers, new filmmakers, to submit their films for this festival. But it'll be an online film festival, so the whole world can attend from their home. And so this is going to be a way for us to kind of give more new filmmakers an opportunity to get their content out in front of the world. So that's coming up in June, between the 18th and the 22nd of June. And we're calling that whole week Black Star Week. We'll have some events here in Atlanta, but the biggest part of this will be on Desta.
You can see it on Desta, DESTAH.com.
It's also available on Roku and on Apple TV, as well as Amazon Fire TV. So if you have those platforms, you can go and look for the Desta app. We're also in the process of developing a Samsung, a Sony, and other apps that it will be on by June of this year.
And the other media offerings of DDM?
So you can also visit us on AtlantaBlackStar.com for your daily news. That's what's happening around the world from a Black perspective. You can also check us out on Finura, FINURAH.com for news about wealth and finance. You can also visit us for sports on theshadowleague.com.
Neil Nelson. Wow.
Yes.
You not only keep us entertained, but educated. Thank you for your vision.
Thank you for having me.